Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is. Hey, welcome back. Happy Monday. Sorry I couldn't be with you guys last week. You want to hear what I was doing? I think you probably want to hear what I was doing. So I had a friend of mine that was moving from California. Let me tell you about my friend. He's moving from Huntington Beach, California to Florida. And he had 8 chickens, 2 lizards, and a dog. Now the lizards and the dog were not that big of a deal, but the chickens were a big deal. And transporting chickens from California to Florida, you thought that'd be kind of easy, right? They're just egg chickens. No. It's like an act of Congress to move those animals, and it was going to cost a ton of money. So we decided that we were going to go across the country with chickens. And so he called me and said, "Hey, look, I gotta travel. I gotta drive from California to Florida." And before he left, we talked about why he left California. And it's kind of the same reason why everyone leaves California. Much of it is because the people feel like they're slaves. You have to fall in line and do exactly what they say and jab your kids and do things. I mean, you have no parental rights in California. And so he just felt like he was up against a wall. And so he moved him and his family across the country, and I wanted to be there. So I spent 30 hours driving straight through to Florida. It was pretty amazing. So sorry I couldn't be here, but there's a saying, I am my brother's keeper. And I wanted to make sure that I was there for my brother. So today we're going to talk about a bunch of things. And I came to a realization, that there's 2 sides of this equation when we talk about the left and the right. We spend a lot of time thinking we've got it all figured out. And it's no secret that I'm not a fan of either side. I'm a fan of President Trump. I'm a fan of Pete Hegseth. I'm a fan individually. I'm a fan of the people that will stand up for the American people. But the more and more I get on social media, the more and more I'm disenfranchised by some of the nonsense that gets put up there. There is 25,000 different ways to look at Charlie Kirk. And you will have people say that, Charlie Kirk was shot by a potato gun. He was shot by this, shot by that. And oh my gosh, they knew about it. He wasn't shot at all. It was the mic. The mic blew up. And it creates chaos. Chaos always favors the op, never favors the people. Its full design is to fatigue the public. It doesn't matter if we're talking about in the United States or we're talking about overseas. It's always the same. And so every time I get on social media, it's fighting with people. Everyone's fighting with everybody else. And I used to dive into it and get into it. Now I'm just like, okay. At a certain point, you get tired of it because there's not a whole lot of academics that are attached to it or using basic intelligence that are attached to any of these arguments. So you'll start to see that I put up less and less things online or in social environments because, frankly, it's just why bother? It's a chasm. Then you talk about X's new algorithm and the fact that it basically is silencing people and how all the different. It doesn't matter if you're on Rumble or if you're on YouTube. They all have decided who the winners and losers are. So, I got blasted for, Joe, you haven't been on here for a couple of days. Yeah, I haven't. I'm going to do my show 5 days a week. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to continue to give you truth. And I'm going to talk about what I know almost definitively to be true. Well, that brings me to definitively to be true. And after I go through a couple of these things, I'm going to bring our guest on. We're going to be joined by a powerhouse guest, Dr. Richard Kradin. I hope I said that right. And we're going to talk about trans ideology. I don't know where that's going to go, but I think it's very clear based on what we're seeing in the numbers and things that it's taken its toll on our children. Mental health issues is at an all-time high. And you cannot feed a child enough drugs to get over the fact that they have a conflict in their mind over good versus bad, or good versus evil. And it's destroying an entire generation. And frankly, we're just a bunch of idiots. We need to stand up and actually have a conversation about how we protect our children. But deep inside of that, I'm also going to ask questions about simple things. Here's a simple thing. Why is it that when I talk to even parents and friends that I know, do they say things like, oh, I need to check and see, they're going to check my son or check my daughter to see if they have ADHD or they have this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, there's nothing wrong with your daughter. I've spent quite a bit of time with them, and so I said it to him. I said, look, there's nothing wrong with your daughter. And he goes, oh, you don't know when you're not there. I go, when I'm not there, she's just a normal kid. I mean, stop this nonsense. You're trying to go get a diagnosis on your child. How about the fact that it's just a child? And sometimes you have to take the phone out of their hand and stop treating them as if that can be their babysitter. Start engaging with your children. Novel concept. But before I do that, before I bring him on, because I want to tell you a little bit about him, I put up a tweet yesterday. And it got a little bit of, well, how do you know? And here's what I said. I'm talking about what's happening in Venezuela. And everyone's concentrated on certain things, and I'm going to tell you what I know. I know why. And I know why. So here's what I wrote. I know why. I've remained largely quiet on Venezuela and why we are blowing up boats filled with drugs. There are other boats from other countries running drugs, so why Venezuela? I know why. And I'm telling you, as sure as I'm sitting here today, President Trump is going back to the genesis of the stealing of the voice of the American people. He's going to make them beg him to stop. And he will only stop when they give them all up. Give up Soros, give up Dominion, give up Coomer, give up ES&S, give up the players and destroy the regime of not just Maduro, but also the legacy of Hugo Chavez, who was the chosen leader of these globalist demons who captured and crushed a country deep in prosperity. Remember, it was the third most prosperous nation in the world. While the leftist trash hides in the dark and plans their next lie, their next terrorist act, and the next demonic move, President Trump measures his next move, tests those on his team for their loyalty to the American people, and swiftly and quietly executes a plan to send the devil itself back to the hole it crawled out of. Bookmark it, pray for our leaders to be loyal and courageous, pray for President Trump to be protected, and get ready for what comes next. It is coming. I am not maybe confident, I am 100% confident. So just let me tell you what I'm thinking. It's really simple. President Trump is not a stupid man, and frankly, he has a legacy. And here's how I came to this conclusion. Here's number one. Number one is that if this was about drugs, he would be slaughtering people trying to bring drugs across the border. He would be knocking them out in Mexico, or knocking them out in the Gulf of America, call it Gulf of America. He'd be doing other things that are coming out of other narco environments, such as Colombia or Guatemala. He would be addressing the problem at the ports. And maybe you can say, well, maybe he's doing those things. No, he's not. I mean, there's the normal things that they're going through in order to catch drug traffickers, and there's the extreme of what he's doing in Venezuela. He's sending a message. Now, Maduro already came out and said, we'll give you half of our oil wealth. Just stop doing what you're doing. And he's like, no, I'm not interested. And I truly believe that President Trump is like, I'm going to get your oil anyway. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure you pay for what you put our country through over the last 20 years. So I think it's calculated. I think it's very calculated. And I think what he's saying right now is that we're done. So that brings me to President Trump's tweet that he put out yesterday. And this is true. And I'm only going to say one small thing about what happened at the NBA, a thing that's been going on for a couple years, 3 years. The FBI came in and arrested Chauncey Billups, and actually I'm disgusted by it. Here's why. You're willing to go after people that are gambling in sports, but you're not willing to arrest the people inside of our government that are committing crimes. You're letting judges get off on just having to retire or to resign from the bench that are not being charged for crimes that they commit against Americans. You're letting them rule with impunity and do things in this rotted judiciary that we deal with today, and even the legislators. They're all just allowed to get away with these crimes. And when they're caught, they just resign and they go away. Crimes committed, but you pick and choose winners and losers. So here's what President Trump said. What's worse, the NBA players cheating at cards, and probably much else, or the Democrats cheating on elections. The 2020 presidential election being rigged and stolen is a far bigger scandal. Look what happened to our country when a crooked moron became our president. We now know everything. I hope the DOJ pursues this with as much gusto as befitting the biggest scandal in American history. If not, it will happen again, including the upcoming midterms. No mail-in or early voting. Yes to voter ID. Watch how dishonest the California prop vote is. Millions of ballots being shipped. Get smart, Republicans, before it's too late. He's telling us to do the things that we need to do. But we don't have the courage to do it. We don't have the courage to do it. And at the same time President Trump is talking about this clown is out pushing what Trump doesn't want done. Go ahead and put this up here. This is real Scott Presler. Can we put that up? No? Oh, there it is. Okay. So Scott Presler is trying to divide MAGA. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that Scott Presler's dad works for the DOD disinformation unit inside of the Pentagon. His job, literally to create chaos with the people. His son, a know-nothing, I don't even know what you want to call him, zero, who stands up with his pom-poms and flips his hair and tries to tell people that that is the new Republican Party. If you don't think they're trying to destroy the Republican Party, they've done a pretty good job. We do a pretty good job ourselves. But he's trying to destroy the party by basically saying, I'm just going to make it so that it's impossible. It's impossible for Republicans to win or see the bottom of the water. Scott Presler's a dog walker. That's how he started. Scott Presler put out a post that says, Republicans, if you do not embrace early voting and mail-in voting in the upcoming Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 election, you'll lose New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. He is signaling it. He is signaling it. We shouldn't even have to put up with this. We really shouldn't. But here we are. There's a site out there that called Real Scott Presler that will draw down to the money that he's gotten, the fact that he's trying to create I don't even know. We either have ideals in the Republican Party or we don't. Frankly, I think both parties are absolutely equally disgusting. But this guy is creating chaos and keeps focusing in on mail-in ballots because that's what Daddy wants him to do. So, Scott Presler, what a guy. Now, I want to put this out there because some of you guys know about the Krassenstein brothers. So, we've seen a lot of stuff come through the fold about President Trump, and he destroyed the East Wing, and it's a concerted effort. Like it's done from multiple angles from the same people. It's as if somebody had sent them a script saying, "Here are the things you need to talk about." It's almost identical, and you can see the fatigue of the Democrats because they don't even change the words. They just copy paste, stick it back in there, and send it out saying President Trump is doing something bad. Well, here's what the Krassenstein brothers, they got caught on video. These are the Krassenstein brothers. Let's go ahead and play it.
Or is that your job?
I have several businesses, but the resistance is a really good group of people. It's spread throughout the country, probably throughout the world. I mean, it's just kind of, it's just what I enjoy spending my time doing. And of course we get paid, Of course those higher ups pay us.
So you're paid for this? It's not just like something you do because for your love of country?
Yeah, I mean, people pay us. They want us to help sow the division and to take over Trump's Twitter feed. When he makes a post, they want our tweets to be up there. They don't want other people to, like Trump supporters, to be seen in that.
They don't want Trump supporters to be seen. And so let's look at Krassenstein's page. He's got 1 million followers. This is what I talk about when I say that they're actually literally creating an environment where they can feed you lies over and over and over again. Ed Krassenstein put up there 3 hours ago, the price of ground beef in America has gone up 15% since January. Thanks, Donald Trump. Here's what Judge Tony Graff has sided with Charlie Kirk's alleged killer, Tyler Robinson. His request to wear civilian clothes during pretrial hearing innocent until proven guilty. Again, standing up for a man that was murdered, a good man that was murdered. Go down a little further. The price of bananas has gone up in America, has gone up 7.9% since January. Thanks, Donald Trump. The price of soft drinks in America has gone up 6.9% since January. Thanks, Donald Trump. This is the type of people that are paid in order to lie to you. They're paid. Let's go ahead and take it down. It's all political theater. Has nothing to do with protecting the American people. This is why, frankly, I just get tired of social media. I want to just completely disconnect from it because none of it's real. So let's talk about our guest that's going to be joining us. This is going to be fascinating. So Dr. Richard Kradin is a Harvard physician. His background is the associate professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School, former research director at the Harvard Mind-Body Medical Institute, one of the United States' foremost authorities on mind-body medicine. We're going to kind of talk through, I see he has several publications, the author of The Placebo Response, The Power of Unconscious Healing, the breakthrough work exploring the science behind belief in healing. His core message and philosophy is advocates for moral-based approach to mental health, grounded in personal responsibility and traditional values. He challenges the dominance of political ideology in therapeutic and academic spaces. Can't believe he hasn't been canceled yet. I think they got the part where you've been at Mass General for 40 years at the Harvard Medical School.
Right. And again, I've got a degree in comparative religion, and I'm one of the few conservatives, I guess, at my institution.
And you have a postgraduate degree also in religion.
I do.
Comparative religion.
Yes.
So the thing that you didn't get to hear me talk about was this transgenderism that's basically wrecking our children's minds. We're seeing it firsthand. Mm-hmm. And I'd like your thoughts on that. What do you think is happening right now, or what, you know, how do you reconcile this rapid rise of gender dysphoria that's happening across the board to our children?
Well, let me start by just talking about what transgenderism really is. Up until recently, it was generally accepted by physicians and psychiatrists that this was a form of psychosis, and that these individuals were suffering not only from an identity disorder in terms of their gender, but they were also suffering generally from paranoia, borderline personality, anxiety, depression, a whole series of serious disorders. And again, this was held to be the case up until very recently. The reason it's on the rise, it's essentially an infectious meme. And it results from an insidious program on the part of the left using postmodern philosophy, which is also an insidious aspect of the left's agenda to undermine society. And they've been reasonably successful at it. Now, I think there may be some evidence that it's beginning to diminish in popularity, but I blame essentially the medical profession and the psychiatric profession for falling on the side of pseudoscience rather than upholding the truth, which is that this is a serious disorder.
So do you think that what we're dealing with now is directly related to a social contagion, that they basically have created the social contagion and then captured, the apparatuses that allow for this to occur? In other words, education. You have teachers that you send your kids to school and tell them, hey, listen, you need to listen to your teacher. So they listen to the teacher. Mm-hmm. And then you put on top of that now the social norms that have been created in media. So you see these things happening on Netflix where they have, or even at the school boards where they're allowing for sexualization of children in books in the second grade. I mean, it feels like a social contagion, and
it is a social contagion. It's the culmination of that long march through the institutions that began essentially back in the 60s. It was part of the communist, socialist, communist, whatever term you prefer to use, to capture the institutions and to transform society into a socialist utopia. And education was their first target. And they were the radicals that I knew in the 1960s. Many of them just went into education, and at all levels, at the university and at lower levels as well. And at this point, they've essentially captured the educational system, and together with social media, which allows them to amplify their message and to use social pressures to promote it. I think that's what's occurred with respect to this whole transgender issue.
Okay, so if that's true, and they've captured education, they've also captured the judiciary as well. We're looking
They've
at
captured all the institutions. They've captured essentially all the institutions.
Okay, so Doc, how do we come back from this without a war?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing that conservatives and people who are still on the side of sanity in this country need to do is to make sure that the Democratic Party never wins another election at a federal level in this country. And short of going out to an all-out armed conflict on the streets, I think we just need to make sure that every legal opportunity is used to move these people out of positions of power.
I mean, look, I think what you're saying is absolutely accurate, but you're probably the first person to admit that we have a full capture of, I've been saying this for years, full capture of our institutions, whether we're talking about captured states, because California's a captured state, Colorado's a captured state, much of the East Coast, New York. You have these fraudulent election machines. We've been able to trace them back to their origins. The media stands up and said nothing to see here, even though we know they're lying. And so we're at the devil's doorstep right now, trying to figure out how do we save the country. And since President Trump took office, a Republican has not won a special election in the last 9 months. So they're using the same crooked system in order to steal those elections too. So, I mean, I'm up against a wall where I'm thinking Democrats cannot win another election at the federal level while we're staring down the barrel of a infiltration on the federal side and, unelected bureaucrats and people that were appointed that are just wrecking our system.
Yeah, I don't know what to do about that. I mean, all I can say is that I think we need to use every legal recourse at the level of the Department of Justice to try to remove as many of these people as possible. And I believe there are laws on the books that could be enforced that are not being enforced to help do that. I mean, if there's an actual insurrection taking place in some of these blue states, which I believe there is, then we should be using the legal system to stop that insurrection in those areas.
All right, but how do you do that with a rotted DOJ that, frankly, Mamdani has been highly ineffective, almost a doorstop in stopping any sort of progress that happens, and right behind her is a guy named Todd Blanche. He's just as equally ineffective. So we have this transgender issue on one side where your parents are up screaming and hollering, and people are just walking past them as if they don't exist, while this radicalization continues. And then, I guess I look at it and go, man, we're running out of time.
I think we are running out of time. And as much as I love Donald Trump, and I think he's done an amazing job in many areas, but if you've got people heading the Department of Justice who are ineffective, they need to be removed, and they need to put people in place who are actually going to do the job. Because it's not going to matter if we make 1 million trade deals across the globe if we lose the country.
That is an interesting way to look at it. I mean, we're looking at foreign wars and things that are happening on foreign soil. Before you came on, you couldn't hear me, or while you came on, you couldn't hear me. But I was talking about why we're down in Venezuela, obviously the epicenter of stolen elections, the machines, and the takeover of our country that happened 20 years ago with a foreign entity. I truly believe that's why he's down in Venezuela. It has nothing to do with drugs. It has everything to do with making them beg for forgiveness while they give up the people that have stolen elections in our country. But with that said, if it's the way of creating this socialist utopia in our country, they don't believe this stuff. They're just doing it in order to create enough chaos that it wrecks the institutional value of our country? Are you saying that
There's no such thing as a socialist utopia. It's never been produced. There's no empiric evidence that it does exist or can exist. In fact, if you look at the agenda that the left has, they never really can clarify what that utopia is going to look like, because their whole agenda is really not to produce much of anything. It's just to destroy what's there. I mean, they're destructive, evil people at some level. Some of them flagrantly so, some of them just useful idiots, but that's what they are.
But they're using systems in order to create chaos to destroy everything that's good about society. And the socialist ideals is something that is supposed to transform into a place where everyone is good. Everyone wakes up every morning and feels good. Do you think the people that are behind it, I call it the wizard behind the curtain, you think they're doing it to then realign with maybe what they've already told us, which is they want to kill off 90% of the population of the world? Because that's what the World Economic Forum said.
Well, I'm sure there are people who are crazed enough to want to do that. I think for the rest of them, it's just essentially what we've seen in every so-called socialist communist experiment. Essentially, the people at the top get rich, they live well, and everyone else suffers. And everyone else loses their freedom. So, I mean, I think that's essentially the goal, whether they know it or don't know it, but that's how it always ends.
All right, let's talk about our children real quick. You have kids?
I have 4. I've got grandkids. Yep.
I mean, can I ask you a personal question? How are you protecting them from this craziness, or how have you been able to?
Mostly, I've insisted that my children not send their children, my grandchildren, to public schools in the state of Massachusetts, which are hotbeds of socialist ideology. So they're either being homeschooled or they're going to religious schools.
Is it working? Have you lost any of your kids to this?
I haven't lost my kids to it. I've got a few daughter-in-laws who are an issue.
Let me. I mean, I have a lot of questions about this because I have a business partner whose son identifies as transgender, and I've known this kid since he was 4 years old. So I really struggle with this change. It's not my struggle to have, but I struggle with it while still loving the kid where he is. So how do you take someone that's in that environment and get them out of it? Like is it even possible?
It's hard to answer that without knowing how the kid was raised. These things just don't come out of the blue. There has to be some degree of permissiveness, I think, there are some people who truly fall into this transgender category. It's a very unusual phenomenon, or at least it was. But I think the vast majority of the people who we're seeing who profess to be transgender now, again, are part of an infectious meme. So the way you have to deal with that is to just take it as we always did, which is to make sure that they recognize that we don't accept it. It's a delusion. And, the same way we would treat anyone who is truly psychotic or hallucinating, we don't accept their alternative reality. And that's what one has to do as a parent, even though it may seem unsympathetic or at times even almost cruel. It's not. It's far crueler to allow someone to live, in a reality that doesn't jibe with what is truly the truth. The problem with Americans is they're too soft. We're a nice people. We don't like to see people suffer, but you can't bend reality to accommodate certain things. You have to have limits, and you have to have barriers, and you have to have boundaries, and you have to have borders. And this is what's been lost in this country and in the West in general.
I mean, look, I'm not a soft guy at all. Matter of fact, I've never seen a fight I didn't like, but I do agree with you that a vast majority of our population has been demasculated and emasculated to the point where they don't feel like they can be men. But with that said, do you think psychotropic drugs or some of the things that they've done to children on the pharmaceutical side, do you think that's adversely affected or created what we're dealing with today?
Absolutely. The pharmaceutical industry is deeply embedded in the medical profession at this point. I mean, they're hand in glove. When I first started in the field of medicine, it was a profession. Now it's turned into a business enterprise, together with its various partners. One partner being the pharmaceutical industry, the other partner being, communist China. I can't tell you how many fellows, research people at Mass General and throughout the country come from China. Americans no longer do research. Chinese come and do the work for us. It's really extraordinary. And then they steal the secrets and go back to their own country. But that's the medical profession these days. And, it's a true problem. I think Robert Kennedy is trying to address some of it, but it's really deeply embedded. It's frankly a horror to see it.
So, I mean, look, I think we talk about the links between serial murderers that commit those crimes, and now what you're seeing is this new trend towards, deeply psychologically disturbed people that happen to be transgender. The last 5, 6, 7 people, but more importantly, it's been mum. Like, no one talks about psychotropic drugs except for parents and some doctors, and most of them are ostracized. Like, we can see it. It's as if we can see the devil, we can describe the devil, the media ignores it. Social media basically suppresses it and says correlation does not mean causation. And we end up in the middle of this conundrum where we can see even the adverse effects of vaccines on children, and we're not allowed to be academic about it. But we can be academic about the fact that you can cut off a kid's penis.
Because science, as it was conceived in its origins and as it was practiced up until recently, was based on a liberal modern sort of philosophy. Postmodernism is pseudoscience. Postmodern philosophy says that science isn't a quest for the truth because there is no truth. There's only relative truth. There's only relative morals. Everything is relative. It's an extraordinary mindset, and so anything goes. And it's almost impossible to get a handle on how to address things when the people around you are constantly trying to negate the truth.
All right, so how do we bring in religion to all this? Because there's another aspect of this that they've cut off and said, you have one group over here that's talking about psychotropic drugs, feed your kids this, you have ADHD, you have all this stuff wrong with you. Over here, cut off your penis, grooming that happens in the schools, indoctrination. And then you slide all the way over to the other side and you start talking about how this all kind of plays together in one circle. Go ahead.
Religion traditionally has been the source of the moral values that allow the society to be coherent. In the absence of religion, there really is no morality, and even so-called natural human religion, it takes all of its tenets essentially from religion. If you want to undo a society, if you want to fragment it, if you want to divide it and you want to make it non-functional, take away its religion. Marx recognized this. Every Soviet-style socialist communist regime has realized this. That's why one of the first things they do is to attack the churches and the synagogues, because that's their direct competition. They can't tell their usual lies if there is a functional religion in the society.
You know, I'm trying to get to the part where we can get to it. I always like to work the problem, like work it and try to figure out a way that we have a solution set. And you know, traditionally I've just come out and said it's fake, it's not real, right? Boys can't be girls, girls can't be boys. Shake it off. This is absolute absurdity. We're being sold a lie. You're saying it's a lie. You're admitting in the medical profession that basically the medical profession is hijacked largely as well.
Well, you know, it's a lie if you agree on the fact that there's a truth. It's no longer a lie if everybody gets to make up their own truth. And I'll let you in on a dirty secret about people who are, in quote, mentally ill, and transgender people fall into this category. Most of them have severe underlying psychological issues, but part of what goes on for all of these people is some dramatic act. You know, so some of the people that you're seeing today who claim to be transgender in the 100+ various genders that are out there are just playing at it. You know, it's just a game for them. And until, you know, adults in the room put their foot down and say, you know, we're not playing this game with you anymore, it just continues until the game just becomes boring, and then they move on to another game.
Okay, so let's talk about the game and the fact that adults put their foot down in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that you're saying makes sense to me. It makes sense to probably half of America, at least half of America, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
We still, President Trump does great things on these. We've said, hey, look, we want to support him. We got these trade deals that are going on, but it's not going to make much of a difference if it's a 3-year speed bump to the tyranny of America. So we can agree on that. Why aren't the adults in the room in the Trump administration putting their foot down and shoving these guys back into the hole they came out of?
Because they've been co-opted by the culture. They're creatures of the culture. We're all, to some degree, creatures of the culture. The culture is really not very good. It's not good on the left, and it's not great on the right either. You know, it's just a bad culture. And until we begin to recognize that and do something to correct it, at least on the right, it's never going to change.
All right, well, I feel like we operate at such high extremes that they almost operate identically in government. There's this fear of loss. And largely that's what we dealt with in 2020 is that people, it's analysis paralysis. They look at it and they go, I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to be the one that gets caught, you know, when the music stops. So I'd just rather not do anything. Or they are afraid to actually have an opinion, so they adopt this idea of just never answering the question. I mean, that's the politics of today.
Well, it's not just the politics; it's the culture. You know, it's the parents who can't, you know, put their foot down with their children and tell them, listen, turn your TV off, or don't bring your phone to the dining room table, or you're not going to get a cell phone until you're 15. You know, it's the inability to really set an example for people in the culture. It's the inability to be at some level courageous. You know, we just don't have people who are willing to be courageous these days. It's a big problem.
You know, when my kids were young, I wouldn't let them play video games.
Good.
I'm like, get outside. Go get a soccer ball. Go do something. But you're not going to sit in the house and play video games. I told my kids that if you do drugs, I'm going to tie you to the bumper of a car or drive you around in a snowstorm till you die. Because I'll be damned if I'm going to watch you die slowly. I'm going to make sure it happens quick.
Good for you.
My kids were 9 and 6 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what they never did? They never did drugs.
Right.
Right? And, you know, I remember my son, you know, telling me that he went to a Christian school. Both my kids went to Christian school.
Mm-hmm.
But they came home with some weird, you know, microaggression stuff. And I'm like, who said that? It happened to be one of the teachers. So I showed up at the school and I go, what are you talking about microaggression? That's BS. That's all an excuse for victimology. You will not do that in the school. And I about lost my mind inside the school because I didn't want this thing that they were building, this rot that, I mean, they ended up firing a couple of the teachers as a result of it, but you can't stop it. It's everywhere. They're trying to infiltrate every aspect of it. And yet, both my kids are normal.
Yes, children will respond to, discipline if it comes from the right place. If they understand that it's meant for their own benefit, they'll respond positively to that. People in the society don't seem to understand that anymore. They think if you're a disciplinary, if you discipline your children, that you're being overly harsh. Well, it's just not true, and there's never been any evidence that it's true. This business Dr. Spock, who everyone was raised, on his manual on how to raise children back in the 50s. Well, he was a communist. He was part of the problem, and people just don't realize that. And so, this is why we have what we have. But the Jesuits recognized that you give us a kid till he's 6, 7 years old, and we'll train their minds. And so you've got to get them early. You can't give them over to some progressive, preschool or progressive kindergarten, and then expect that everything's going to be okay. It won't be.
Yeah, no, I think the most disturbing part about all of it is that I feel like I don't know where to start. But I look at my children and they're amazing. And I look at my children, I coached soccer for 14 seasons. I never played soccer, but my son wanted to play it, so I had to learn to play it. And I was harder on these kids. We'd get done with practice, and I'd be like, "Oh, you're not done yet. You got another hour." I would yell at these kids, and the parents loved me, right? Kid would show up to school to practice, and his parents are like, "Yeah, he's been acting up in school." I'd make him run till they puked. I was a terrible coach.
Sure, but you're actually a good coach. I mean, part of the problem, I hate to say that because it always causes me difficulties. Part of the problem has been the feminist movement. Part of the problem has been women. Women, by their nature, are permissive. And once they assume positions of power and undermine the role of discipline that men traditionally had, the culture has gone downhill as a result. You don't want someone who's beating their children, but you don't want someone who says, no, you can never, discipline my child because we can sit down and reason with them. Well, you can't reason with a 2-year-old. You can't reason with a 3-year-old. You have to set limits for them. And if you've got, a society that's been feminized and refuses to set limits, then, it's not going to work.
Doc, how do you survive 40 years inside of a system that you can obviously see is going the wrong way? I have another friend that was a doctor and went to Harvard, and he got out and he just felt like it was he stopped being a doctor because he goes, I cannot adhere to the standards that they've created. So how have you survived for 40 years in an environment where some of your colleagues are, let's just call them, they're communists.
I didn't say I did. I was there for 42 years. I had it. I couldn't survive anymore. I left. So I left about 5 years earlier than I probably would have otherwise. But the conditions at the hospital were just abominable. And there was no one to talk to and no one to reason with. So I said, they gave the opportunity for early retirement. I think they were trying to be rid of people who had my type of mindset anyway, and so I took it and left.
Okay, but then all the good people are being sucked out of the profession. And again, I get back to solving the problem. If the echo chamber continues and the social contagion takes over because of a lack of courage, you said it, they have a lack of courage. They have a lack of ability to actually see truth for what it is, because now it's a subjective truth. So if all of the good guys, I say this about the police departments too, and lawyers, they're all infested with these mind-rotted, zombie apocalypse people, then how do we solve the problem? Because it's getting worse, even as President Trump is in office.
I think, as you've probably recognized, most people, unfortunately, are kind of like sheep. And once they get their marching orders from above, they tend to march in line. If you can change the approach and the tone of the marching orders, they will probably fall into line with that as well. So if it becomes really unpopular to have this abominable culture and people begin to recognize that, then they will go back to acting in a more sane manner.
So you're saying we haven't hit rock bottom yet?
Probably not. Probably not.
I mean, I hate to laugh about it, but it's like, as I see it, I go, wait a minute. What did you just say? You want a litter box because you want to pee in the corner in a litter? You think you're a cat? Get out of here.
Yeah. No, in fact, someone just told me that they have a problem at the school they're at because two of the kids in one of their classrooms think they are cats. I said, well, okay, well, they think they're cats. Maybe you need to suggest to them that that's really just not going to go down very well in your classroom. But they're in a quandary about it. How do I approach this cat in my classroom? Well, it's so nonsensical it hardly deserves a reasonable answer. But this is where people are these days.
Okay, you just brought it up. We debate the ridiculous.
Yeah,
we literally let the ridiculous have air.
Yeah,
and
we shouldn't.
All right, so how do we do that? You tell me how to do it, and tomorrow, because what I want to do is just bang heads. I want to just take them all and evict them all.
You have to clone yourself. You see, when cloning becomes popular, we need to clone ourselves so there's more of us.
That's right.
But unfortunately, I think it's going to come down to an individual level. More people are going to have to get the message, and they're going to have to stand up. It's not going to happen. Trump's not going to save us. Unfortunately, he's not going to do it. He can set us on the right path, but he's only going to be around probably for another 2 years, and then what? So, everyone's going to have to do their part. And, you can't sit by passively and say someone else is going to do it for me.
President Trump put a post out yesterday that said, Republicans, you need to do something. You need to get rid of mail-in ballots, early voting. You have to get rid of it, get rid of the machines, go to an ID in person. So he put out this deal, right? The media has largely ignored it. People are talking about it. So we know how to solve the problem. We can see the problem right in front of us. And yet, we're not allowed to fix it. You're not allowed to fix the problem.
Well, you can try to fix it. I mean, I guess you can try to fix it at the local level, and that's what people always say. Politics has to begin at the local level. But, it's a problem. You see what's going on in Ireland now. It's just unbelievable. I have in-laws who live there. They're Irish, and they're beside themselves because they have no voice. There's nothing they seem to be able to do about it. They're out on the streets, and you have the police just beating them down. It's but that's what's going to happen here as well. I mean, it almost happened in the last administration. It will definitely happen in the next Democratic administration. That's where it's coming. So they cannot be allowed to come back into office, even if we have to go out on the street with guns. It cannot happen.
All right. So I am a firm believer in what you just said. Like I believe that the Democrat Party is the most dangerous thing to humanity, because so goes America, so goes the world.
I mean, I actually believe it's probably, based on the laws of this country, it's probably not even a legal party. It's probably not a party that legally can be allowed to hold office. But people just don't seem to be able to enforce the law in this country anymore either.
Well, that's because we have a captured judiciary. I mean, you want to talk about communists and socialists? I mean, it's as bad as I think it could ever be. You have judges that put he, him, her, whatever pronouns across their door, and they actively are promoting judges onto the bench who are deviants. I don't know how to put it.
Why hasn't the mayor of Chicago been arrested? Why hasn't the governor of Illinois been arrested?
For
Why hasn't the governor of Why hasn't the governor of California been arrested? Why don't these things happen? This is the real issue. And if Trump really wants to buckle down, that's what he needs to do. He could do it if he wanted to. He's not doing it.
I mean, at this point, you will look up the definition of sedition, and every person that you just talked about is guilty of it.
Yes, absolutely they are.
And another thing that people don't understand, we talk about Memphis or we talk about Washington, D.C. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I know people that live in Ward 7, Ward 8, and they are screaming, thank you. I know people in Memphis whose kids could not play in the backyard for fear that they would be shot or worse, right? They'd be abducted. They now can actually sit in the backyard and play. They can go to the park with their dog. So the people that are there are like, you freed us from bondage. You freed us from absolute, it's being held hostage.
Yeah, but that's the easy task because Trump has the clear legal right to do it in Washington. He has the clear right to do it in a red state if the governor invites him in. But if you've got seditious mayors and seditious governors, then someone should go in there and arrest them, and then things will change there.
Okay, you just said it from your mouth to my ears. Arrest them for sedition, which by the way I've been pushing for the last 6 months. Just look, if they're telling people that they need to resist ICE, they're basically saying that they're committing a crime against breaking down the standing against the federal government. They're in essence standing against the country. That's
right.
sedition.
It's an insurrection.
Yeah.
It's like a civil war. You've got states there that are basically like the Confederacy at this point. Go in there and lock them up.
What do you think the chances are that actually happens?
If Trump was smart, that's what he would do. Will he do it? Probably not.
Do you think,
if he's, I don't know what he's waiting for. If he's going to do it.
all right. So do you think he's not doing it because if he loses, again, I'm going to talk about fear of loss. If he loses, then he loses his family legacy. You go from a billionaire to them just basically taking it all away from him.
I don't know. What does he really have to lose? I mean, at this point, he's almost 80 years old. He's not likely to run for re-election. I don't think he's got a lot to lose. I think it would be a tremendous blessing to the country if he did what needed to be done. It might really turn things around in a big way if someone saw the governors of states being arrested.
But you have to put those people in front of judges. Are you saying you do it through a military tribunal because sedition is at that point you can declare the fact that we are in an active coup?
I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I'm sure there are people out there who can answer that question.
I've had them on. They've all said the same thing. You could do it. You could do it with a military tribunal, easy. Just snap your fingers and be. Again, it's never been done.
Then do it in whatever way is easy. I mean, they're already calling him a tyrant and a king. What has he got to lose?
He has nothing to lose. Well, but then again, people that have nothing to lose also find themselves in a position where they don't want to be seen as that king or that tyrant. So the reason why they're saying this stuff about him is not because that's what he's doing. It's because they want to stop him from doing things that would, in essence, set things straight. It's the same thing they did on January 6th, same thing they did in 2021. They knew they stole the election, and he could have signed the Insurrection Act, taken care of it. But he knows that if he did that, it would set off he has courage. He just has lots of people behind him, like Mark Meadows and others, that have stopped him from taking that last step, that last jab.
Right, because they're perfectly nice, reasonable people, which is just not what we need at this point. We don't need people like Mark Meadows. I mean, they're nice human beings, but that's not what's required. You need like a General Patton,
I got to tell you, I'm all for it. And I think to protect our kids, I don't think we have a choice. I mean, we have a problem when the American people are understanding what's happening with Big Pharma, understanding what's happening with their children, understanding what happened with education, and they're sitting there saying, oh, there's nothing to see here. In essence, that's what they're doing. Oh, no, we're not doing that. We're not grooming children. Well, they groom children.
Well, they've always done this. I mean, this is the duplicitous, big lie nature of the left. It's just give them whatever they think they want to hear, and just keep lying. That's how they do it, with lies and with power. It's a wonderful book. There's a number of interesting books. There's a wonderful book I just read just the other day by Daniel Mahoney, which I think summarizes the whole issue in the country now. It's really worth reading. And again, he stresses, like Alexander Solzhenitsyn did, this is what they do. They lie and they use power to support their lies.
But they do it so convincingly.
Not to me, they don't.
Oh, not to me either. But I mean, I listen to them and I find myself saying, "You're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar," and it doesn't faze them. The sociopathy and the psychopathy that we're dealing with is next level.
Well, it's sociopathy at one level. Again, if you accept a certain degree of moral good and bad, right and wrong. But if you're beyond that, which is where their philosophy takes them, they're not sociopaths. They're just doing whatever they need to do to get the results that they want. And they don't see themselves as sociopaths. Only the people on the right still see it in those terms. They're beyond that.
Okay, so we arrest the governors and the mayors, right? What about the judges?
Them too. If they stand in the way of if they're not enforcing the law, if that's their job.
But their job. I mean, the Supreme Court, he keeps having to get involved because you have activist judges. They're everywhere. I mean, the reason why they waited till they had density. I mean, 2020 was the culmination of understanding they had density. It was the event by which they pushed a button and said, "Okay, we own everything. We know we own everything. Let's go." That's what 2020 was.
But I don't know that they actually truly own everything. I mean, in some respects they do, but in other respects, there's a substantial amount of resistance to it. Otherwise I wouldn't be on this show and you wouldn't be on your own show. I mean, this is the resistance. It's the alternative pathway to the things that they've captured. This is what the right has to do. They have to create their own alternate, mode of news, or alternate mode of education, et cetera, until we can push back in a way that's truly effective.
Are we going to civil war? You think we're going to a war? You think we're going to go to a place where it becomes kinetic?
I would hate to see that happen, but I think it's probably the quickest route to resolving this. War has its purpose. Again, it's as they say, it's the alternative to things that can't be solved politically. I think we're beyond solving things politically, and so war may be the only way to resolve it. But it's a horrible option, and nobody really wants to take it. But if it happens, it happens.
Wow. You say that our culture is, I look at the global culture that has been eroded and rotted. You talked about Ireland. We could talk about the UK. We could talk about where people are strangers in their own land. And in essence, that's what this anti-white agenda is in the United States. It's making people a stranger in their own land. Do you think that a bridge too far would be people coming up and saying, all right, we're going to create the whiteness pride event? I know it sounds silly, but at the same time, it's gone so far that people are literally afraid to fill out their census. They're like, other.
Well, I don't, if blacks can have their pride parades and gays can have their pride parades, I don't see why white people can't have a pride parade, I think any white person who's not proud of the fact that they're white is deeply disturbed at some level. To accept that there's something truly wrong with you. Yes, to accept that there's something truly wrong with you, that you're suffering from some form of existential guilt about things that you never really did. That's the definition of mental illness. So yes, these progressive people are disturbed at some level. Yes, they are.
All right. Well, Doc, I hope that we never get to that place. You said you retired 5 years early. What are you spending your time doing now? Are you come on the show? I assume you're writing white papers and still staying actively involved in how we get to the end of this nonsense.
I write books. I'm actually a musician. I write music. I've just put a little album out on Spotify, and I also do work as a medical consultant. So I'm in good shape.
You said you have daughter-in-laws.
Yep.
That are maybe leaning a little bit towards this psychosis that we deal with. Do you just accept them where they are, or are you actively having conversations with them about, hey, this is not right?
Well, there's unfortunately no way of having conversations that are productive with these people. I mean, that you just can't really reason with them. But what I will do is make sure that I voice my opinions around them. I want to make sure that my grandchildren hear them. I think my son essentially agrees with me, although to what extent I'm not exactly sure. But that's what you have to do, and because I'm invested not only in my own children, I'm invested in my grandchildren as well. I don't want to see their minds tainted by this nonsense.
Well, I mean, it's a slow road.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we solved the world's problems today, but how do people follow? Can people follow you and get a book that you said you've written a couple books, which I talked about before.
Yeah, no, there are 3 books that are worth reading. The most recent one is A Godless Crusade, and that just came out last month. And again, all these books are on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. I wrote a book about the medical profession. It's called Unhealthy. It's coming up there. That's a really good read and a really good insight into what's going on in the medical profession. And I also wrote another book called Breakdown, which is about the mental health profession, which is also largely at fault for what's taking place in society today. And a few books about Trump and the like. So there's a few things out there worth reading.
So the breakdown, how progressive ideology is eroding. I actually ordered that book. It's on the list of books that somebody else told me to read, and so I have that book to read now. But and you wrote a book about Trump as well, right? Oh, there it is.
I did.
Never Trump.
Yep.
How and why obsessional elites are undermining America.
Yeah, it's basically about Trump derangement syndrome and what it is, at least from a psychiatric perspective.
Well, Dr. Kradin, I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to read several of your books, and then I'll have you back on so I can talk about those books specifically.
That would be great.
Yeah, but thanks for coming on. And thanks for the work that you've done to at least keep it sane for the time that you were at Harvard. Sounds like they've taken a different path.
I tried. Okay. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. God bless you.
Bye.
We have so many people that have so much talent, so much ability, can see kind of what's happening in the country. And yet we find ourselves in this deep hole of not being able to solve it because is it density or is it just the fact that we can see it but we don't say something? I mean, Dr. Kradin finally got to the place where he's like, I'm going to leave. And in many cases, that's what police officers and politicians, even people in government that have taken that road of, well, I only have to last a few more years. And while people have made those decisions to leave, there's still the other part of us that goes back and says, it's daunting. What is going to save our country? What is going to save it? Is it going to war? Is it going in the middle of the streets with guns? Is that what it's going to take in order to turn this tide around? And are people going to be willing to give up their lives? We sent millions of Americans into war in World War I and World War II. Those were the bravest among us. We lost many of them. And the ones that came back rather jaded over that war. Now, that was a war that was fighting for freedom. It's fighting for democracy. It's fighting for the rule of law. And then you pass on the lessons that we should have learned from the first war and the second war, and we didn't learn our lesson. You had the Korean War, you had the Vietnam War, you had the Iraqi wars that started way back in 1989. People think that it happened in 2002, it didn't. We were invading Iraq and doing horrible things to people in Iraq for nearly a decade before the war in 2002, when we were looking for weapons of mass destruction. Over 500,000 women and children died in those wars. So we have an erosion that is not a slow erosion, it's incrementally. It's incrementalism. Little by little, they take what was never theirs to take. And how do we take it back? It really is the thing that drives me to do the things that I do today, is that how do we reach people who are so off their wagon? How do we reach people that frankly that you're diabolically opposed to them? You can't even understand how their brain works. Like, how is it that you could believe that? And they always follow it up with this one saying, it's my truth. It's my truth. No, there's only one truth. It's not up for debate. We debate the ridiculous, and we let people come up with these justifications for why society is what it is. People dressing up in cat outfits or doing crazy things. Like saying that a 5-year-old or 6-year-old or 7-year-old should go on puberty blockers because they've decided that they want to be a girl or they've decided they want to be a boy. And the parents actually go along with this charade. It's the most deranged thing I've ever heard. And they justify it. No. She woke up one day and Susie said, I want to be Tommy. Why don't you just let them go down to the nearest tattoo parlor and just tattoo themselves up? So by the time that they grow up, they're just a walking tattoo. Oh, you can't. Why would you? You can never let a child do that. Let them drink a bottle of a fifth of vodka. Just let them do it. Oh, they're not allowed to drink till they're 21. Well, let them just go shoot guns. Just give them a 45. Let them go to preschool with it. Oh, you can't do that because, that's crazy. But it's sane to tell a 5-year-old that you can change your gender and to create these pseudosciences out there that, frankly, are designed to kill off entire parts of humanity. I mean, it flies in the face of just common decency. And I used to get really upset and scream and yell, and then I finally got to the place where I'm not going to stop fighting. I think we have to continue to fight this battle. But I want to show you guys some other stuff. As we talk about socialism, we talk about this erosion. We talked about this mayoral candidate, Zoran Mamdani. You have Bernie Sanders and AOC that are going along with this. They had a rally in Queens where 13,000 people showed up. And by the way, 13,000 people is not a lot. You have 320 million people in this country. 13,000 people is not a, yes, you can find 13,000 crazy people that will stand up and say, I want free shit. You can find it. And if you held a rally that you didn't have these radicals show up at, that says anyone that is straight, normal, and believes in opportunity show up, and you'd have 500,000 people show up. But they can't. You want to know why? They're at work. They're protected parts of society. 13,000 people showed up. And you got to see this. This is a sitting Democratic governor of New York City who is rallying with a devout Islamist communist. And the crowd is saying that we have to eat our own. Play it.
And we get up stronger, live, and more resilient than ever before. I'll be fighting every day with my partners on the same side. Amish Stuart Cousins.
Take them it. Take them it. You retards, you're retarded. The thing that you go through your life trying to figure out how you could grow and have a family and do well. Every single one of those people would be drooling over a Lamborghini or a Porsche going down the road. Every single one of them. I want one of those. I could change the mind of every single person there. Every single person there. I tell you what I'm going to do. You come to work with me for 1 year, I'm going to give you a $200,000 car. They'd be like, really? Yeah, you have to work hard. But at the end of it, I'm going to give you a $200,000 car. And by the way, I'm going to pay $100,000 a year. And at the end of it, I could change their mind because they'd be like, oh my gosh, I can afford to do stuff. And look, I stepped out of my company for 3 years. 3 years I stepped out of my company. I got kicked out of other companies that I was partners in because they're like, Joe, you're just way too controversial. I got a piece of shit. You know, I got rid of a bunch of people inside of even Untamed. I got rid of them. People that were self-aggrandizing themselves. And I ran Frank Speech. And so a bunch of those people that had to go away too. And there's this piece of shit named Mermaid that used to work for me. She used to work for me at Frank Speech. She called up my assistant, been with me for 10 years, and tells my assistant, I'm going to tell you why I'm telling you this. Because this is what happens when you have weak people who just want to take from you what's never theirs to take. They don't want to work for it. Her only job was to book people to come on the show. That's her only job. That's her only job, is to book people. And I may, if she continues, I may actually tell you what her real name is. And then I just went and did a whole research thing on it. But you have this person, and you got other people like Tori and other people that want to come out and say David Clements is a bad person, and you know. And I got sucked into this for like 3 years. She calls up my assistant, who's calling a couple people. I said, hey, I want to have these people on the show. Call them up, get them on the show. And she goes, you need to quit your job. It's like, what? She goes, yeah, you need to quit your job. If you're going to book people for Joe, you need to quit your job. And by the way, nobody wants to come on Joe's show, and he doesn't have credibility. Tells my assistant of 10 years, worked for me. By the way, first 8 people that ever worked for my company, they're all still here. Now, I stepped away from my company for 3 years in order to take Mike Lindell's company public in 7 months. I took his company public in 7 months. They couldn't get out of their way if they were standing on it. And although I do have my issues with the fact that Mike owes me a bunch of money, I still have done everything I can to be loyal to what he has actually stood for. So this piece of shit said that I don't have credibility, that I lack credibility, that I lack credibility. Now, I just want you to understand something. I never took a dollar from anyone except for people that helped contribute to my fund, my physical fund. I've lost over the last 5 years in real money, $9 million. And you would say, well, Joe, you have $9 million to give. Maybe I do. Maybe I do. Maybe I did have $9 million to give. But I've stood up and told the truth about everything, and I lost selling my company for over $200 million. I could just shut my mouth, carried on, sailed off into the sunset. But I chose not to do that. I have no credibility. All the stuff that comes out with Dominion and everything else with Smartmatic and all of the events and everything that came out all points to a guy named Eric Coomer. I have no credibility. Judge gets up on the thing and creates this stuff with the media and attacks me. I have no credibility. I'm the one that funded kids going to school. No credibility. I'm the one that did all these things. And you would say, Joe, it's not about you. You're right, it's not about me. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the fact that over 25 years, I've literally devoted myself to being successful and helping other people. And you have guys like this. You have guys like, or this mermaid chick who goes to my assistant and calls her and also says this: Joe owes me $5,000 to $6,000. The lies are not just on the left. See, the reason why we can't have nice things is because you have liars and grifters and thieves that basically create a catatonic state. Tory saying that I went to Guatemala and stole her information. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you, a child? You asked me to go to Guatemala, I did. You asked me to gather information about trafficking women and children, I did. I took it to Congress, dropped it off, had a big report. They did an entire hearing and investigation into it. Year and a half goes by, Ryan Matta does this whole, series of stuff. And this See You Next Tuesday comes out and says somewhere along the line that I did something wrong. Now, it was all planned because this was, by the way, the same week that that mermaid chick called my assistant to try and shake up things in my company. Same week that somebody else came up with some sort of idea of how somewhere along the line, I'm the reason why Tina Peters is in jail. See, it's all connected to just shit people who used to work at 7-Eleven that decided they wanted to become an influencer. That, in essence, is what we are dealing with today. So you have the left over here, which you have Mamdani, that walks in, who literally is a communist who is un-American. He's a foreigner. But on our side, you know what we got? We got a bunch of circus clowns that just make shit up. It's like going into high school. This mermaid chick, which, by the way, mermaid, just so you know, look for it, because I'm probably coming after you. I'm gonna make you sit for a deposition. And then you talk about the other people like Tory. Oh yeah, I'm suing her too. And I just get to the point where I'm just done. I'm done. Because the reason why the doctor was just on here saying stuff that he said, which is, I don't know if it's gonna come to violence, is not because we do not have the information, and it's not because we don't have the ability to solve it on our side. It's because we have people that are inside of our side that just care about how they can stuff their faces with jelly beans while doing as much as they can to stop the people who are actually credible from having a voice. That is what our entire side is about. And while you have the Mamdani liars, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, you also have an entire group of people that frankly never had a seat at any table ever. They've never had any seat. And can stare at you in the face and smile at you while walking around you talking trash about you. The people that have known you for a long time. Those people are the ones that are running the show when it comes to who you're allowed, what you're allowed to talk about, what you're not allowed to talk about. Those people. Now on the left, they're raging crazy lunatics. On the right, we're trying to figure out, who do we follow? Who do you actually follow? Tina Peters in jail. Okay, Jack Prosopic's over here. He put up a post that 3 million people say free Tina Peters. You think that guy's lifted 1 ounce of shit at all to help Tina get out of jail? No. But if it's popular and it gets me a little bit of money on X for engagement, I'm gonna go do that. We can't solve the problem, and these people are screaming the most ridiculous things out there because we have people on our side who say they're on our side, who can't stand up for the basic rule of law. They can't do it. They can't support each other. They can't even support President Trump. They got to talk in circles and do this mental masturbation and clown show. When asked a simple question, like Lindsey Graham was asked, or Mitch McConnell, what are you going to do to support President Trump? And they stand up there like, and give you a bunch of soup salad that makes no sense at all. The left is united in lying about everything. They've got an entire group of people called the resistance. They can go into schools and cut kids' penises off and take away parent rights. They can do all of those things. They can murder Charlie Kirk. And you know what we got? We got people on the right that are just a flat out joke. They're a joke. They're zeros, nobodies, absolute nobodies that came out of thin air. But we should listen to them because they have 1 million people that follow them on X. They haven't been canceled, so we got to listen to them. But they basically sniff the assholes of the people around them and get as close as they possibly can, but definitely don't talk about the facts. We have a problem on the left because the people on the right are flat retarded. They're idiots. Never built a thing in their life, not one thing. And yet they've got it all figured out. And they walk around like they're in a high school cheerleader club. So feverishly running towards just selfish desires. I want to be somebody. Man, I tell you what, guys, I love talking to you on this podcast. I love doing it, right? I love doing it. But if I didn't have it, I'd be okay. I do this because I think that somewhere along the line, I want you to fight. I want to be able to fight side by side with you. I've given up enough only to have pieces of shit tell me that I don't have credibility. Yeah, that's what happened. And people that were supposed to be my friends that take money from me and do what they can to, I don't know, do what exactly. It's just the law of politics, I guess. But the left is allowed to exist because of us, because we haven't figured out how to call people out for their bad behavior. We don't do it. We allow people to create rubbish and gibberish and stand up saying, I did this and I did that and I did this. And I'm thinking to myself, you didn't do jack shit. You did nothing. So I want you to hear a little bit more of this soup salad nothing. The same soup salad nothing we get on the right, we get on the left. And guys, listen to me. I am 100% Team Trump. 100%. I hope he annihilates Maduro, and I hope he destroys every part of Venezuela until they beg him. Until they beg him. Say, please, no more. They already said they'd give up half their oil. President Trump's like, you know what? I'm going to take all of it. I'm going to take everything that you took from the American people. The sovereignty that you took from the American people because you sold out to Soros and the rest of these guys, I'm taking all of it. I pray that is exactly what happens, and then the people in this country get charged with sedition. They're charged with treason, get put up on a nice little pedestal and hung by the neck till they're dead. Because it's not a victimless crime what they did. But our biggest problem is not the left. We can recognize the left is ridiculous. Our biggest problem is that we got a bunch of lefties and a bunch of retards on the right. And we don't want to hold people accountable. They want to fight each other. I just gave you an example, by the way, of somebody that did something to me and said stuff about me that walks around to all of these people saying, you don't want to talk, you don't want to be on Joe's show. And then they'll call me like, Joe, why don't I want you to be on your show? I'm like, I don't know. That's what we deal with. Play this. This is AOC. This is what you deal with. Just think about this from the perspective of people on the right that have done the screwed things up to where we're at right now and stood in the way of President Trump actually making progress some of them work for him. Most of them are just talking head idiots that frankly couldn't get a job at McDonald's. Well, let's go ahead and play cut 2.
Jews escaping Holocaust, Black Americans fleeing slavery and Jim Crow, Latinos seeking a better life, Native people standing for themselves, Asian Americans coming together in Queens, in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, in Manhattan, in Staten Island, in this country.
All right, tell me what she just said. Tell me what she said. Now, let me tell you what I get on social media. Every time I get on social media, I get a bunch of gibberish like, hey, look at this picture and it floats. And oh my gosh, we've now figured out Elon Musk is really a raging Democrat. I had this conversation today with a guy that applied to work. 3 years I stepped away from my company. And in 3 years, we lost 86% of our revenue. 86%. And when I came back, I fired everybody. I gave people the ability to leave. They were there a long time. I became the bad guy because they were just happy sucking. You have this AOC woman standing up talking about soup salad, and you have people cheering, and you got a guy in the back that's a Sikh sitting there as if the people that are behind them represent America. They don't. We're not an Islamic country. We're not a Satanist country. There's so many we're nots in there. But she wants to talk about and separate and say, you have to be an Asian American, you have to follow us. This is the psychosis that we deal with on a daily basis. Daily basis. This is the retardation that we deal with on a regular basis. And we have to show up every day and deal with it. And I finally had to come in. I kid you not, I walked into my company and I was like, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. You get your job done or get the hell out. You need to get the job done. New sheriff in town. I keep in mind, I ran a tight ship for many years, but I had to go on the road 200 days a year. Go talk to people about the Gideon 300 and what you need to do. And this is what's happening in the election. And this is what Eric Coomer did. This is what Dominion did. This is what it ties to with ES&S and Smartmatic and all this stuff. I did that for 3 years. Over 550 trips. And again, it's not about me. But the same way that I had to walk in and fire people, we've got to be willing to do in this country. 86%. What do you think's happened over the 4 years that Biden was in office? There is no middle class. They're saying tax the rich. AOC standing on a stage and saying, we got to stand up for Native Americans and all this stuff. And you can't even figure out what you're standing up for, but people are cheering. They're cheering for what? It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. It's like standing up and saying, ravioli, ravioli, give me some ravioli. And then Mamdani. How is this guy even in the race? How is it that we've devolved since 2020? And this all came since 2020, all of this. You had sleeper cells that came out. You had an entire country that was shut down for months. You had businesses that were put out of business. You had people that were just vilified. President Trump became, I don't even know. I mean, they've done everything that they are. Everything they projected, they've done and said, this is what the normal people are. Normal people now are the abnormal people. And we put up with it. We didn't even know they were grooming our children until it was put on Zoom and the parents were like, hold up, wait a minute. What? And then they said for a virus, you have to take a vaccine. Walking past science. Fentanyl pours into the country at the same rate. 25,000 and more kids from 18 to 25 die of overdoses. And the country is silent about it. Education standards. They're not even standards. Kids graduating from high school can't even read. I don't have credibility. I don't have credibility. No. These leftists that are these politicians, this AOC talking like that's your credibility. Mamdani, not even an American. Got fast-tracked though. How did a guy like that get fast-tracked from going and being in Arab Spring and causing havoc in Syria and Egypt and representing some of the most disgusting, diabolical people, Islamists that are overseas? How did that guy come to the United States, do some music videos, become an internet guy, on TikTok, and all of a sudden he's running for mayor saying that he's going to give out free food and tax the rich into oblivion? Are we even in a sane world? How is that? And nobody's talking about it. Here's what they do. Oh, well, he's talking about this socialist. No, he's a lunatic. But you don't have credibility, Joe. How many companies did you build? Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you have no credibility. Where'd you grow up? How much money were you given by daddy? Oh, none? Oh, no credibility. That's how absurd our country has become. And what Dr. Kradin said was absolutely right. We've got to get to the place where we actually stand up. President Trump is not going to solve it for us. We're going to have to solve it. We're going to have to get to the place where we call them what they are. And when the police come to take one of our buddies because you get punched you get this guy punched in the mouth for being ridiculous, we got to be willing to, you're not taking Johnny. Johnny's not going anywhere. I will show up with SWAT. You show up with 50 people and you stand in front of the house. You're like, yeah, go get some more people. We've allowed them to take what is not theirs to take. This Mamdani guy is an absolute liar. And they're stepping over the dead bodies of Americans. And they're creating another narrative while we watch it in real time and we're doing nothing about it. And the social media companies and everyone else is silencing you and telling you got to keep your mouth shut. This is This is Mamdani. Cut 3, play it.
I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
Here's the problem. He lied. And you see how he broke up? So he got really emotional about a lie. He created a lie. Do you see who was standing behind him? Demons that would love to see America fall. And if you think I'm wrong about the demons wanting to see America fall, it's the same on the right. You got the guys that stand up and say, "Oh, President Trump, you need to do what I say. You're gonna do this." And the people in his administration is like, "Hey, slow your roll, President Trump. We need to, slow you down," just like they did in 17. The same playbook. When the towers came down, they cheered in all the nations that these people are from. They cheered death to America, but they wanted to come to America so they could take what wasn't theirs to take. You want to know why? Because the greatest grift of all is the one that has been told all over the world that, hey, if you go there and you tell them you're poor, man, you can go get a job, and we have this little Somali deal here, and we got this Tanzanian thing here. We got all these different things that are going on, right? They're going on here. And you just go there, tell them you're poor, and they'll give you $4 or $5 grand a month and give you free education, free. So you take that and you build your own wealth over here. It's a grift. America's been under it for decades. So why did he lie about his aunt stopping taking the subway? Well, the internet did its thing and found her work history. Here, put this up. Zoran Mamdani, according to what he said, Mamdani lied when he said his aunt stopped taking the subway in New York City following 9/11. According to the work history of Masuma Mamdani, she lived in Tanzania at the time that Zoran claimed she was in New York City. Be interested to see how Zoran lies his way out of this one. There she is. Where does she live? Tanzania. And by the way, what's really interesting about her is that she never wore her hijab. She didn't wear a hijab. So it just gets worse and worse and worse. So you have AOC. Let's just kind of walk through this really quick. You got AOC that's breaking people into groups, making sure that, hey, we tried to get this whole thing where we create this melting pot. By the way, if you want to look at the melting pot and how it's working so well, look at Ireland, look at the UK, look at all the countries that have had their culture stolen from them. Look at what's happening in the United States. I'm not giving it up. I've had now 3 interactions in the last 3 weeks. I had an interaction where I was at the airport. Someone told me to get out of their way. I was walking straight. They moved over to get in my way and told me that I can move. Her people have moved for me for millions of years. And I just pushed right through her. I pushed right through her. 3 incidences where I know that a black person or brown person looks at me differently and is like pissed off, angry. Oh, but I'm supposed to be worried about anti-Semitism. Well, people that say that they're not white. See, they developed this whole thing, you're not white. I'm supposed to let my culture get divided and pushed by people on the right who are zeros and nothings. Never accomplished a thing in their lives. So you have AOC breaking down people in the groups, Mamdani race baiting the Muslims with his lies, Socialist America divided us into buckets in the country and let their truly how they feel about us come out. Go ahead and play cut 5.
About that. Free lawyers for illegal immigrants And there's more where that came from. But he's not the only one. Across the country, there are more. 2 more examples. In Minneapolis, Omar Fateh is running. He wants to fund non-police programs, keep homeless encampments, and stabilize rent. You hear that a lot from the socialists. And you can understand why. Rents are high. This one's interesting. In Seattle, Katie Wilson is running for Seattle mayor. She wants a bond for affordable housing. She wants to install city-owned solar panels and fund alternative crisis responses. She lives in a 600-square-foot apartment that she rents with her husband, and they have a small child there. She's running against another Democrat who is like, wait, I'm diverse. I've made incredible gains through my own hard work. But she is in the lead. Josh Krasher is the editor-in-chief of Jewish Insider, one of our political analysts.
How is this even a conversation? How are we even having a conversation about these idiots? You got 2 people that were frankly not born in this country, whose homes were shitholes. Let's call them what they are. They came from a shithole. Their country is in absolute disrepair. Both shitholes. And they came over here and they're like, hey, we know how this is going to work. We need a bunch of free shit. And by the way, we need to take all of it from the rich, tax the rich. And by the way, the rich is anyone that makes $300,000, $350,000 a year. That's the rich. By the way, you get to keep half of that. So you can make $175,000. I just want to know who's going to buy the $1 million+ homes when you tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. Tax the rich and do what with it? Create a new grift for people that were never American to begin with? Let's talk about these areas that you're having to go into. You can't drive around Seattle. You can't drive around San Francisco. You can't go into any of these areas and not face massive amounts of crime. I went to downtown Denver yesterday. I passed no less than 15 zombies in downtown Denver. People that literally had the fentanyl bend, where they basically look like they're zombies. And I'm driving through, and they're walking the street. That's what Democrats get you. They get you a whole lot of turmoil that you have to go hide from. As long as you have a heart. As long as you have a heart and let them just do whatever they want. Let's legalize it all. Hey, here's the guy that's driving in Portland. This is the guy that's trying to drive in Portland. Let's go play.
This guy was driving by, and apparently they spit on him while he's driving by. That's what he's saying. I meant, do you mind if I get your side? What did they do when you were driving by?
I drove by, asked them what they were doing, and some guy spit on me.
On your car or on you?
Me and my car. Dude called me a... Yeah, there's spit still on the side of my car, bro. The school had to move because of these people. There's people that live here that spend thousands of dollars to live here. The school had to leave. This isn't peaceful. Do you see any of these people being peaceful?
We're through, man.
No, it's not. It's been going on for months.
I know.
And until Trump and the troops come here, no, the local government doesn't want them to leave. When you vote to legalize drugs, you lose your city.
Hey, is that fair what he's saying about the community being upset about the school leaving?
I don't know anything about that.
If it's true, what do you think about that?
I don't know.
10,000 emails and calls have been made to the city of Portland and the Portland Police Department. This school asked them to leave. They said no, the school had to move. You know how many residents live here and their kids go here? This is not what the business owners around here want.
What's your message to Donald Trump right now?
My message to Donald Trump is get here and stop this now. This is not fair. If you're on the other side, why should you have to put up with this? You called me a 3 times. I haven't called you a name, but I guarantee you're unemployed. I guarantee you're unemployed. I guarantee. Where do you work? And you're a liar. Same thing.
This is a traffic violation.
Oh, okay.
This is a traffic violation. Get it out of here.
All right, Portland PD, shut this down. It's the traffic violation.
Besides, you guys just standing here. I'm just asking you a question. I live here.
What's next?
What are you guys
doing? Do not
doing?
interrupt me in a traffic stop. Get over there now.
You got a police officer won't say anything about disturbing the peace. The fact they can't hold a school there. The people spent thousands of dollars to live across the street. Guy gets spit on. Do you think they did anything about that? By the way, bodily fluid is considered a bioweapon. You don't know what that guy has, and he spit on him. They should have come over and arrested the people that spit on him. Do you think they did that? No, because we debate the ridiculous. We allow these clowns to have a voice. And we sit around. Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. You have no credibility. You have no credibility. Yeah, no credibility. Because the right and the left converge. And the people that are out there saying that it's a grift. Just pay them. Just pay them. They want to get paid. All these people want to get paid. They want to get paid. They'll stand up for anything as long as they get paid for it. The left, yeah, they're getting paid too. So you got a bunch of village idiots on both sides. You have influencers, influencers. They don't want anything better. I do a podcast 2 days a week, or 2 hours a day. 2 hours a day I do this. On top of doing this, I got to make sure that I look after multiple companies and make sure that clients get taken care of. And every day I do this 5 days a week. And when my friend calls me and says, you need to go to Florida, I need your help, I stop what I'm doing and I go do it. That's what normal people do. That's how normal people react. This guy can't. These radicals on both sides are literally destroying everything that society has to offer. And we're sitting back watching it happen as if President Trump's going to save us. The only thing that saves us is us. Like, we're going to have to save us. But here's the public school system in the inner cities. Oh. Play this.
White people with resources don't put their kids in public school. If LeBron would have went to public school, he would have never been LeBron James. That's why he went to a private Catholic school. If Kobe would have went to public school, he would have never been Kobe Bryant. That's why he went to a Catholic public school, private school. If you want to develop your child, you don't put your child in no public school. To go deal in an environment where all of these children who live below the poverty level, because in most public schools, predominantly kids get free lunch. That means your parents are poor. You're below the poverty level. That means you're either at or above or below. That means y'all don't have no money. And your mother had to prove this. That's why you get a free lunch. Why would you put your kid in this environment where the focus is all of these kids passing a test so the teacher can keep her job? It's not about teaching and developing your kids. Why would you put your kid in this unless you have to? Man, most people who want their kids to be something don't put them in public school system.
There you go. So let me drop a little knowledge on you, okay? LeBron James, had he gone to a public school, would have been an animal when he got out. He would have been considered an animal. He was groomed, and they said, hey, we see a kid with talent. Let's bring him in here and teach him how to be a normal person. And still, when he got out of it, he recognized the instincts of what he came from and the fact that it's not fair. Now, he could do a lot of good, but he's hamstrung by, one, being a Satanist, hanging out with Satanist people. But two, he's hamstrung by the fact that they got him by the short hairs and says, you better believe this or do this or we're going to cost you money. So he sold himself out. He sold his community out. He doesn't talk. You ever seen any? His school, by the way, LeBron James has a school, worst performing school ever. Why? Because he hired a bunch of retards to come in and run it. But he's building a foundation of new basketball players. It's the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life and seen in my life. But it proves to you the fact that they don't want black people to be successful. Even black people that are successful, that run for politics, that are Democrats, they don't want other black people to be successful either. They want to be able to use them as much as possible while taking all the meat off the bones and leaving just enough scraps for other people. They have arrived. They meaning the individual that got in that position. And what this guy's saying is absolutely true. Bad education system leads to what we see in LA, Chicago, Memphis. But Trump had to go. Trump actually had to go to Memphis and listen to what the residents had to say. And this is what I talk about when the left is out there on social media, talking about how Trump is a king and all this other stuff, and that they're going to show up. Well, let me just tell you what they're drowning out. They're drowning out this. Play it.
the floor. Keep your hands up with nothing in your hands.
All good. You guys be safe. Thanks.
All right.
Lock them up.
There's been over 380 arrests made in Memphis, Tennessee in just a little bit over a week.
I done walked to the store. Y'all got me a bag of ice. I ain't walked to the store in about 20 years.
Boy, I tell you what, Memphis is a madhouse. The National Guard's done made 300 arrests, done taken 300 criminals off the street, and found like 9 missing children.
Ever since 12 and Trump done came to Memphis, I ain't heard no gunshots at night.
You know, for the first time in 5 years, my kids have been able to play in the backyard and be able to do it comfortably.
When the sis in Memphis says she's grateful because the last 2 weeks it's been quiet, it's been peaceful, her kids have been able to play, and y'all have a problem with that, it's becoming real clear who the enemy is.
It just really is astonishing how many people are thanking the National Guard for coming in and cleaning up their city, Memphis.
I got more for you. You know, while the Krassenstein brothers and these talking heads from LA that live in their McMansions, well, they sit there and complain, and they talk about the fact that these poor black people are being victimized by sending the National Guard in, while you have Gavin Newsom that literally is out there only Gavin Newsom only is talking about the fact that President Trump's a king and he's nervous. Gavin Newsom is very nervous, and he should be. He should be mortified. And I agree with the doc who said he should be arrested for sedition. Do you guys have that video I just put in there? Can you get it for me real quick? Can you get the video that I just put into the chat, signal chat? All right. In the middle of that, let me just show you what it looks like to hold yourself accountable. And for a man, a black man, who talks intelligently and holds himself accountable, more importantly, holds his parents accountable, and is still America first. Let's go ahead and play cut 9.
Yes, I got deported after 20 plus years and 97+% of my life in the United States. ICE agents picked me up in Chicago and threw me in jail for 3 weeks because my parents did not file my paperwork correctly. They brought me to the United States on a visa, overstayed that visa, had opportunities to appeal it in court, and my father did not show up to court. Now I'm in the United Kingdom, and this country sucks. And it has made me more America first, because you see that outside of London, all of England is a third world country, a dump. I hate it here, and I am excited and ready to go back to the United States, but I have a 10-year ban to wait out, and I'm waiting to bring my fiance over because I had a wedding scheduled that I had to cancel. And it's taken everything in me to forgive my parents for what they've done to me and what they've caused, but I'll keep going on.
How about that? He had every opportunity to make it better, and he didn't do it. Why? Why didn't he do it? And this kid didn't actually blame anybody. He's like, I got a 10-year ban. I'll be here for 10 years, then I'll come back. He's got a fiance, he's getting ready to get married, had to uproot his life. And he goes, yeah, I got banned. I'm still America first. That's a real guy. But he gets drowned out by radicals, just like on the right. Just like on the right. Guys, listen to me. I don't actually care if you follow me or you don't follow me. I don't care. I'm going to keep it as real as I possibly can. I had to walk in and I had to clean house. I had to clean house because in 3 years' time, they took all the meat off the bone, didn't do their job, didn't take care of clients, went and played golf, did all the things they were going to do, didn't try to service and adhere to the ethos of our company. And so I got rid of them. It took me 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I was like, I'm done. You know what's left? The people that were actually working hard. And then I went and found other people that I wanted inside the organization who were amazing people. Now, some people left because they weren't in charge, and it just got to the point where they eroded themselves into a job where they couldn't restart their engines. That's fine. They had to go. But the reality of it is, I had to clean house. You know how hard it is to clean house with guys that have been there for 9 years, 10 years? People that literally said that, you know, Joe, you need to go out and create these opportunities for me. They were entitled because you're torn. Now, these people have been with you for a long time. And you figured out really quickly because you lost a bunch of them when you decided to stand up for the election stuff. They're like, I don't want any part of it. That started it. But I'm going to tell you right now, the only way that we get to the bottom of this is that President Trump needs to put his foot on the gas. He needs to send the National Guard into every blue city. He needs to arrest all the governors and mayors. And he has it. The law is very clear. If you're seditiously standing against the government and you're trying to stop them from doing it, this is an active coup. We're in the middle of an active coup. We're in a Cold War right now. We're in it. And it's cold because, frankly, we haven't turned up the heat yet. We turn up that heat just a little bit. All of a sudden, people will fall in line. But if you send people in there and you arrest all these people, get them off the streets. I don't care if you have to build 40-story prisons. Don't care. Don't care. You rehabilitate them. You make them actually go to a trade school. You keep them off drugs. And by the way, if they get out and go back into drugs, you go back into a camp. Oh, you can't do that. That's totally against their rights. No, actually, one person's rights do not supersede another person's rights. And I have a right to live in a peaceful society. And people in the inner city have a right to be able to walk to work and walk down and take their dog somewhere without worrying about the fact that they're going to get shot. Here's a video. Play this video. This is a guy in Atlanta. This is a guy in Atlanta. He's got something to say to President Trump. Can't drown this out. Go ahead and play it.
This message is for Team Trump and the National Guards. Come to Atlanta. Come to Atlanta. Come to Atlanta. Next. I know y'all done cleaned Memphis up. I see so many videos of Memphis happy. And as a homeowner, as a working man, as an entrepreneur, come to Atlanta. I beg of you. Get these YNs off these streets. Get these water boys off these streets. Come on. Because these males ain't doing shit. These doing shit, Trump. Come to Atlanta. National Guard. Come on. Get these young niggas out of here. Get these YNs out of here. Come on. Come on. National Guard, I see the work you doing in Memphis. I'm not one of them niggas. I'm a black man. I'm not a nigga. I'm a black man. I ain't like these other niggas. I don't give a fuck about all that what the niggas say. I care about me walking outside, while walking my dog without having to walk with a goddamn pew-pew. Bring Atlanta back. Bring old Atlanta back. Get rid of these YNs and these single mom raising them. So let's do it, Trump. Bring the National Guard to Atlanta and send them right down there by the goddamn Mercedes-Benz Dome. Let them sit right there, all through West End. Stay on up through there, all through West End by the Krispy Kreme. Right there. Park it right there by the West End Mall. Get them all.
You know, Atlanta's asking for what? Who doesn't want them to come in? You got Letitia James in New York City that's saying, oh, you know, I will stand up and I will fight against this. They got her dead to rights for fraud. Okay, dead to rights. They have Comey dead to rights. They have Jack Smith dead to rights. These are all criminals, a part of a criminal enterprise that have literally stolen from the American people what was not theirs to take. They got Hillary Clinton dead to rights. Patrick Byrne literally gave her an $18 million bribe that was facilitated through the Turkey government. That actually happened. Our election systems are absolutely rotted at the core. We are doing all sorts of stuff for Israel. And I got to tell you something. Tomorrow, we're going to do a special on Israel. We're going to do a special on Israel. Let me tell you what is happening in Israel. The people of Israel hate Bibi Netanyahu. They hate him. You know who else they hate? They're held hostage. If you were to send the National Guard, into Israel, you'd have to arrest every single one of the Zionist leaders that are out there. Every one of them. I have a video. I'm going to put this up here for a minute. Actually, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it tomorrow. You are not an anti-Semite if you stand against what these people have done in our country. When 46% of our judiciary is owned by faithless, godless zealots that happen to be quote unquote Jewish, and they're doing harm to our country, every single one of them. When the CDC is run by these same faithless, godless Satanists, the synagogue of Satan, when you have every institution that we have is run by godless Satanists that happen to say that they're Jewish, they hide behind it. It's not a conspiracy at that point. And the people in Israel, they hate these people. They hate these people. And they're Jewish. They're not self-loathing. The right is a problem. The right is a problem. We have a problem because we can't get to the place where we hold people accountable for cutting off the penises of our children. You want to know why? It has nothing to do with the Democrats. It has to do with the Republicans. President Trump put that post out and he said, Republicans do something. And you know what Republicans did? They sat around and like picked their teeth. Yeah, do something. That's what they did. They acted like a bunch of retards. You want to know why? They're in on it. They're owned by the same AIPAC lobbies. You think President Trump is out there telling them to do something for a reason? You don't think he's frustrated? You don't think he realized that the people in his entire sphere are owned by these Satanists? I tell you what, he does know what he's going to have to do. You want to know why I know that? Is because when asked the question if he'd go to heaven, he said, no, I don't think I can. You know, I could fix a lot of things, but I don't think I could fix the fact that I'm not getting into heaven. He is in the middle of a fight with demons everywhere. And people in his own circle, they just want to have the ability to say, I was close to Trump. But they have no courage. They have no ability. And you know why they don't have those things? It's not because of the Democrats. It's because of the right. It's because of the mermaids of the world. It's because of the Tories of the world. It's because of these people over here that create, and by the way, judge her by her name. She's the chaos coordinator. That's what she says. Chaos coordinator. Well, I'll be damned. Chaos always favors the out, never favors the people. When you have universities that are run by the CIA, and you got entire organizations inside the country, which are black op organizations that don't allow you any sort of justice, any. I'm completely against what they did to the NBA. You wanna know why? Not because they're probably not guilty, but because all you're proving is that the normal people out there, the guys that happen to have made it, that they're not immune to you putting your claws in them to make an example of the fact that, yeah, we're not lawless people. But you can't hold anybody accountable. You can't hold anybody accountable because we live in a lawless country where the demons and the cartels run things. And if they could pat you on the back and they get good old boy, give you a hug, right, put their arms around you, that's what we live in. That's what we're dealing with right now. So I'm gonna pray us out, and we'll deal with the who owns Pornhub, who owns OnlyFans, who owns CDC, who runs and owns the. I mean, we can go back over and over and over again. You got comments for me? I went off a little bit today. I apologize. LeBron is a Satanist, yes. All right, let's see what you guys all have to say. Anything interesting in here? I'm gonna work my ass into the ground daily for $100K a year. A $20,000 car. Dancer Clatter. I should put that up. I should hire someone and say, listen, at the end of the year, I'd have to make it 2 years. I'm going to give you a $200,000 car, you work your ass off. I wonder how many people would run towards that, even left or right. I think everyone would. Gavin Newsom is a traitor, not just a seditionist. I agree. Prisons are riddled with drugs. Ask the J6ers. Being in prison doesn't keep people off drugs, period. I agree. CDC Foundation feeds CDC crooks. Yep, it does. Oh, the rainwater. So I sent it back out to get it retested. You're not going to believe this. So there's a metal oxide. So there's 4 states, five states we got water from. I'm glad you brought that up. And I need to make sure. So here, oh man, it'll blow you away. So some of the stuff that was found in the water was completely abnormal. You had copper in the water. You had, I need to go through the list. But there were things in the water that I now have to ask people, did you really get that water as rainwater or did you get that somewhere else? And here's why. 2 out of the 5 states that I got water from had weird stuff in it. Really weird stuff. Now, that could be leading me down a path where I'm trying to figure out what's in the water and somebody sends me water and it's tainted water. And now I didn't remember that I had to have some sort of control. But it is weird stuff that's in the water. Super weird stuff. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about that later on this week as well. So I urge, we'll talk about that. All right. I don't have anything else. I want to thank those people that support us. We got some crazy stuff that's coming up. I want to finish by talking about this. This is probably the best fax blast that's been written about where we are right now to Congress. If you haven't seen it, by the way, on Fox News, there was an Antifa leader. I'm going to make sure you get this, please. Get the interview with the Antifa guy who said, when they said it's not an organization, he was 9 years old when he was indoctrinated into it. And they basically tried to get him to commit a crime. So just make sure you can get that interview. America stands at a crossroads, bleeding from the wounds inflicted by Antifa's relentless assault on our sovereignty. And your inaction has allowed this cancer to metastasize. Born from 1930s European anarchist shadows, Antifa surged into the streets in the early 2010s as the black-clad militants now branded a militant enterprise by the Department of Justice for its illicit aim to overthrow the government and dismantle law enforcement. These left-wing shock troops swarm anonymously, hurling fireworks as grenades, vandalizing federal buildings, and firing rifles at officers amid chants of "Blue Lives Don't Matter." From Portland's firebomb wastelands, where Antifa's 100-day siege of 2020 evolved into October 2025 ongoing hellfire of beatings and federal property destruction, to the July 4th, 2025 ambush at Texas Prairie Lands Detention Center, where mass cells shot at ICE agents and wounded an officer. Their chaos escalated unchecked. This isn't protest, it's premeditated terrorism, terrorizing communities and eroding the rule of law while you sit idle. We demand a full prosecution of every Antifa operative involved in these attacks now, before more American blood stains our soil. The insidious truth, Antifa thrives not on ideals, but on river of illicit cash from taxpayers and billionaire puppeteers, engineering anarchy for their gain. Far-left nonprofits, bloating by government settlements, funnel millions in lawfare payouts to rioters, rewarding violence with taxpayer dollars. Bulk hauls of riot gear, 1,000 gas masks weekly, 10,000 balaclavas, 10,000 balaclavas monthly, traced to dark money veins like George Soros' Open Society Foundation, which poured over $80 million into extremist-tied groups in 2025 alone. Outside networks like Tides and Arabella. These elites laundered money through philanthropy to arm militants for endless street wars, draining public coffers while doxing innocent and ambushing border guardians. The DOJ's landmark October 2025 terrorism indictments against the North Texas Antifa cell, charging Cameron Arnold and Zachary Evans with material support to terrorists for the Prairie Land assault, prove the threat is real, yet enforcement lags. seize their assets, freeze their pipelines, and prosecute every funder complicit in this treason. End their elite impunity that shields their war on us. We, the American people, will not tolerate the betrayal any longer. Your oath demand you act, or history will brand you the enabler of ruin. You can read the rest of it when you get there. All right, I will tell you this. We are at a crossroad, and we're right. Where the crossroad is big, and I'm actually more at peace now because now I know who my enemy is, and it's not the Democrats that are just the blue blood Democrats. It's not even the voters that are independents or Republicans. It's the parties. It's the parties and the enablers that stand up and act like they're doing good while basically trashing people's reputations and doing real harm. The radicals. But if we're going to make progress, we're going to have to allow and press for President Trump to do the things that are necessary, rip off the Band-Aid, and throw these pieces of garbage in jail. So, all right, let's pray. Joe rants. Rant. All right, let's pray. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for our guest. Thank you for the work that he put in for nearly 42 years at the Harvard, trying to keep people sensible, only to have to leave and let these demons take over that environment as well. Father, we're in this place where we can recognize evil for what it is. We can recognize the ridiculous, and yet we find ourselves trying to cater to this ridiculous and justify our position in being realist and being ethical. I don't even know, just normal people. Like, we're just normal. Father, I ask you to help us to set this straight, restore you to our community, and to stand up with courage. We're at a dire place in history. We keep saying it couldn't get more dire, and it seems to just get more dire by the day. Help us, Father, that we may maintain our faith while standing in the gap and doing what is necessary to protect our communities, our country, and our children, Father. Help us to be compassionate for those that have been deceived, but recognize that, frankly, we're going to have to stand up and stand hard against these demons. Help us, Father, that we may walk towards the light, carrying a sword, and but only use it when we know we have to. I ask these things, Father, humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, if you want to know the truth, somebody just asked me a question before. Is President Trump going to heaven? The answer is yes, President Trump is going to heaven. We just need to get him to the place where he realizes that he too can have full redemption. So God bless you all. We'll see you soon.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real, no more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Tame nation, where the brave